Nemesor Zahndrekh stared dolefully at the seething tide of greenskins that was tumbling over the canyon edge opposite. Some of the armored brutes died on impact, with the Necron warriors firing up at them from the bottom of the gulch. Many more struck axe first, their crunching impact causing the Necrons to phase out by the score.
"These separatists are insane,"
said Zahndrekh with a chattering sigh of exasperation.
"They were supposed to be trapped at the edge of the cliff, not to voluntarily jump over it. Our fine plan lies in tatters, Obyron."
The hulking Vargard said nothing, for his emerald gaze was on the skies. There was a sudden roar, and a trio of orcs hurtled upon smoking jetpacks, bellowing as they fired their primitive pistols at the Nemesor. Obyron blinked from existence to reappear in the path of the bullets. They ricocheted from the bodyguard's impervious metal body without harm. The orc jump troops thundered down, brandishing their axes. Oberon's scythe flashed once, twice, 3 times. 6 bleeding lumps of orc flesh fell to the ground nearby. Their blood spattered the Nemesor, but he did not notice, for he was intent on the battle in the gulch.
Nothing for it,"
said Zahndrekh.
"Send in the monoliths and have the night scythes bring in the reserve phalanxes in a classic Ektos overlap. We can still be back in time for the feast."
Nemesor Zahndrekh was once counted amongst the greatest generals in the Necron dynasties. By his campaigns of conquest, did the world of Gidrum rise from ruling a small and insignificant planet on the fringes of the galaxy to the iron-handed governance of a dozen star systems. Even now, though Gidrum has been subsumed into the Sautek dynasty, Zahndrekh is numbered amongst the mightiest of heroes. It is a reputation well-deserved, for Gidrum is one of the more expansionist of the recently awoken Crown Worlds, and Zahndrekh's armies are an ever-present peril upon the galaxy's eastern fringe. Yet for all his military genius, Zahndrekh does not see reality as it truly is. His mind suffered damage during the Great Sleep, and as a consequence he is trapped deep in the past, in the wars of secession that racked his corner of the dynasties. In his mind, he fights these campaigns still as a creature of flesh and blood, crushing rebellious kings and bringing their domains back into the fold. He does not see armies of orcs, Eldari, or men, but hosts of rebellious kinsmen battling to sunder his beloved dynasties. As such, Zahndrekh is one of the few Necron overlords to employ the full protocols of honorable war against all encroachers. Where others see aliens, he sees only Necron-tier. He disdains the use of death marks, assassin wraiths, and other strategies forbidden by the codes of battle. Not that his subordinates have any such compunction. Wherever possible, Zahndrekh ensures that enemy commanders are captured, not killed, and thereafter treated as honored prisoners, much to the outraged consternation of Zahndrekh's royal court. Indeed, there are many lords in Zahndrekh's royal court who would dearly love to see the old general removed from power, but they judge that his adrift perceptions greatly outweigh his feats of battle. However, as befits his station, Zahndrekh has formidable defenses against regicide. His personal sepulchre is heavily woven with traps. His personal household retinue boasts 3 entire legions of Lichguard, and he even employs 80 food tasters, though it has been countless millennia since any morsel passed his lips. Yet Zahndrekh has one defense greater than all others: his aide and protector, Vargard Obyron. Obyron served as Zahndrekh's Vargard in their very first campaign, an undignified but hugely successful series of skirmishes in the swamps of Yama, and has stood steadfast at his side ever since, both on the field of battle and off it. Unlike his master, Obyron is very much aware of the changes wrought upon their existence, but has long since abandoned any attempt to awaken Zahndrekh to reality. Whatever the fault in his master's mind, the damage lies too deep. So, like any dedicated servant, Obyron attends to all the loose ends created by Zahndrekh's eccentricities, chief of which are seeing to it that honored prisoners of war are killed whilst trying to escape, and that upstart lords of the royal court are either silenced or disposed of. Obyron's instincts for Guidrum's politics are every bit as finely tuned as Zahndrekh's are for battle. It is quite impossible for any plot to mature without word of it reaching Obyron, at which point he takes action to ensure it dies. The exact method depends greatly on what Obyron considers to have the greatest impact. A public trial by combat for the chief plotter is invariably Obyron's favored method. His skill with a blade, legendary long before biotransference, has decayed little with the passing millennia. Sometimes, however, Obyron deems the quiet terror of a conspirator's disappearance to have a more enduring effect. Regardless of method, Obyron has proven his supremacy hundreds of times over. Yet every few decades, another upstart noble foolishly chances his arm against the overlord of Guidrum, who, for his part, is content to leave the Vargard to his work. On many other worlds, Necron or otherwise, Obyron would be considered the true power behind the throne, yet his loyalty to Zahndrekh is total and completely without guile. He seeks no reward beyond continued service, and has never displayed an iota of desire to rule through his master. On campaign, Zahndrekh and Obyron have proven to be an almost undefeatable combination. Zahndrekh seldom lowers himself to personal combat, but instead wields as a weapon the battlefield acumen that somehow remains undimmed by his faltering memory. Under his gaze, the Necron armies of Guidrum react almost instantaneously to counter enemy strategies, shifting between aggressive and defensive postures at a moment's notice. With a few carefully chosen words of command, outflanking foes are isolated and crushed, enemy assault waves dispersed, and fire support positions obliterated. Such is Zahndrekh's crystal-perfect reading of the flow of battle that even the enemy's experienced veterans often seem like raw and fumbling recruits, as their every tactic is anticipated and their every skill countered. For his part, Obyron fights in the front lines, wielding his war scythe with the precision to be expected of a warrior who counts his campaigns by the 1,000. Yet no matter how distant he is, Obyron always keeps close watch on Zahndrekh. His responsibilities as bodyguard outweigh any other considerations. Should Zahndrekh be threatened, Obyron always returns to his master's side in a shadowy flicker of energy. His Ghostwalk mantle is at all times locked onto the Nemesor's homing algorithm. It can teleport him and those nearby back with utter reliability, allowing him to intervene in no time. It is well that Obyron is so dedicated, for few lords of Guidrum are eager to fight alongside their Nemesor. Some simply cannot tolerate Zahndrekh's constant stream of reminiscences to battles fought long ago, relevant to the campaign at hand, though those recollections always are. For others, Zahndrekh's damaged mind is a constant reminder of the fate that might one day be theirs, should need dictate they enter stasis sleep once more. None of them sees that such damage has doubtless already been wrought, that they are, in truth, just as blind to their own involuntary idiosyncrasies as Zahndrekh is to his own. It speaks much to Zahndrekh's skills, and perhaps more crucially, those of Obyron, that despite the peculiarities in his tactics and his strict adherence to the Triarch's ancient codes of honor, he remains one of Imhotep's finest generals. Together, Zahndrekh and Obyron form a bulwark against the teeming hordes of disorder that would encroach upon the Zahndrekh dynasty.
Another fine victory over the crude and the disorderly Obyron. It seems strange to me that the enemy generals saw fit to lose so many wild beasts upon the field of battle. Their so-called tactics become more desperate and barbaric by the day. So long as we stand tall, old friend, it shall avail them not. Onwards! Obyron, it's 4 p.m. Time for 3 hours of irrelevant anecdotes.
Yes, my lord.